So in today's video, I thought I'd try to do something a little bit different, and I think you're going to really enjoy this. I'm going to share with you 13 little tricks that I use on an everyday basis when it comes to Google My Business, some optimization, even trying to perhaps understand a few things, learning a bit more about other people's businesses, seeing whether there's ways in which you can improve on them. So all these little tricks, they're kind of so small, rather than put them as individual videos, I've chucked them all together. I thought I had about 5, then I came up with about a list of 10 or 11. And then I thought, well, I've got a couple other things that I could chuck in as well. So I've now come up with 13. And all of these things are things you probably haven't heard of. If you've heard of them, or if you know something I haven't covered, then put it down below in the comments, because I'll be interested to know what you have to say and whether there's perhaps something that we haven't considered as well. But all these things are just small little gems, little tips and tricks. And I think you're going to find them quite useful in your coming months ahead as you build your business. And as we're about to approach this Boost My Business course of 30 days together. So we're nearly there. I'm still just preparing the last few videos. But until we get to that point, here's some things to keep you busy in the next week or two. So here's my first trick, is just to make sure that when you go to Google My Business, that you're aware that these 9 dots here, you click on that. And if you're signed into your Chrome with Google My Business, then you'll notice that amongst all the things there, you've got your Google My Business icon. You click on that and it takes you straight in to your Google My Business listing. So that's my first tip. Now, what about if you've got a review then? So if you go to review, have you ever had it where you've had a review from someone and then you look at the picture and you think, I just can't work out who that was from? And you've got these kind of different pictures of the people that have posted them. Let me give you an example. So I might see the name, think I probably recognize that person, can't quite work out who it is. So if you click on that and open a new image in a new tab, you'll see the picture's no larger. And at that point, you might think that's a bit of a waste of time. But let me show you this trick. If you notice, I just pull in, this is the URL for it, but you're looking for an S number. When you find the S number, if you stick a 0 on there, it'll make it 10 times larger. And now press enter. And there you go. Now I can see it's Carl Randall and I know him. And that's just a great way of seeing any images that Google's using. Just find the S number, add a 0, and you'll be able to then see it enlarged by 10 times. Now here's my third tip, is if you're doing some research, say for instance, I was looking to build up a customer's business with car hire in Bristol, you may want to start looking at what other businesses are doing. But bearing in mind, if that's your competition, let's say for instance you were a business in Bristol and you're looking at competitors, every time you click on one of your competitors, you're giving a signal to Google. Now, it's been proven many times that Google My Business signals are certainly made up through click-throughs. So if I click through to their websites to get ideas and directions, and I click just doing this, I'm giving, for instance, this Bristol car van hire now, Google just gives them a little bit of credit because I'm a person here that's clicked on their business. So how do you overcome that if you're doing some research? Well, it's quite simple really. You just go to Incognito. And if you go into Incognito mode and then go into Google Maps and then you do all your searches, because it's not associated with your Google account, then anything I type in here now, so if I was doing a search for say web designers, because I'm a web designer, I'm interested to see what other web designers are doing. I click on here, because it's incognito, it serves me up information and I can just see what's going on. I can click on these things here and this isn't going to give a signal because it can't record a signal because no one is signed in. So there's my third tip, is just if you're doing analysis of other companies, other businesses around you, then just make sure you do it in your incognito mode. So my fourth tip is analytics. And here's my analytics for Google My Business and for my business itself. But how do analytics help us? What can we learn from it? Well, one of the things you can do is when you're in analytics now, you'll see this new profile, but very few people realize you can actually get a daily breakdown as well. So for instance, if I take July and I've got 6 people contacting me, of course I can find out how it's broken down. I can see that 5 of those were a call and 1 of those was a message. But what about if you click on here, if I click on July only and do July to July, I now get a breakdown on a daily basis. So at the beginning, I got the message. When were the calls coming through? Well, they were a bit later on. I had 2 on the 16th of July. I've had a few in the last week as well. And if I want an overview as well, I can get that over the month. And I can take any month. So if I go to May, let's say, for example, and I go May to May, again, I'll get a daily breakdown of what's going on. Along with that little bonus tip here, you also see how you did against last year. So against last year, I'm minus 25%. Now for my next trick, I just wanted to talk to you for a moment about Plepper. And it's in line with the fact that, did you know that different countries have different categories? And I'm just going to show you why that can be said. So sometimes I'm talking on a video from the UK and someone in Canada is saying, well, I don't have that category. Or someone in India is saying that doesn't exist for me. Or in America, they have a different category. Let me just give you an example. If I come down here, you'll notice that in a general basis, if I do a search for India, then there's 4,035 categories. Now let me do a search for, say, United Kingdom. Let's do United States. So 4,335. Let's now fetch the categories. So it'll take a few seconds. And there you go, 4,050. So there's 15 more categories. And that's just worth bearing in mind. Different categories are different names. Now, if you want to know what categories are available, you can get a full 2021 list, and that's at Plepper. I'll put a link down below in my comments. Now for my next tip, I just wanted to point out the knowledge panel. So if you do a search for your business, your company, you hopefully come up on the right hand side with a knowledge panel. And what I will say is there's a lot of this is editable and a lot of this isn't. A lot of it is controllable and some of it isn't. So you need to understand what is it you can control and what is it you can't control. And you need to be aware of these things. Now the brand guy, or the brand Serp guy, he recently put together an interesting little diagram of what you can and what you can't control. He produced this diagram. This was of his. The green areas of his knowledge panel here, you can control. You notice an indirect control over the questions and answers, the reviews, the external reviews. So you've got a certain amount of control over that, but you've not got total control like the green areas. And he's comparing it to the Oxford Cheese Company, where they have direct control over their images, their business name, their information of the address and telephone number. But you notice this yellow bit, no control. Now, as it works out, it's positive things, but Google decides on what the popular times are for your business, and Google decides on whether you want to share a review or not on that place. And you've got indirect control, no control, and direct control. So are you aware of where your control lies on your business? Because you need to try and get all of it, if you can, controlled, and have none of this no control. And if you are in a situation where you can't control it, then you want to make it positive rather than a negative control. So just an interesting way of viewing the knowledge panel. So the seventh trick is just to be aware that Google My Business changes the knowledge panel. And when you're going through some of my tutorials, you'll notice that sometimes the knowledge panel seems different. Here's a little bonus trick, by the way, a brilliant little, if you use an animated GIF here on products and rename it as JPEG, then you get this animation if it's an animated GIF. So that was a nice little trick from Luke on his Ranking Academy website. What I wanted to suggest you do is just look to see what's changed. Now I can see, for instance, that's new. And I've also noticed that the updates here are beginning to show. Let me show you how different it is even in just a few months. So if we take this section here and compare it to, this is a screenshot of just a few months ago of how mine looked. So I had 67 reviews then and I got 74. So you can see it's just a few months ago. But even though you've got the same pictures, the same logo, all that hasn't changed. I noticed, for instance, the green ticks have now disappeared. So in March, you got green ticks here, and now that's gone. So here we had COVID updates that came after the business information, products that follow. It seems that products were a bit further down. So there's no COVID information now. That's disappeared here in the UK. Here I've got secure shopping, social, 8 reviews. I don't even know anything about that, but for some reason I've got that. That's now changed. I've now got 192 as a review with Facebook Yell. So those have swapped around a bit as well. Then you've got the reviews, which I think that's the same. So same's there. And then I've got here my description and then my updates. Whereas there I had description and there was no updates. It was just finding with profiles. Now in that time I had YouTube as one of my profiles. I've grown in YouTube, and for some reason now I've lost it. So that was the social media is so hard to control. That's one of those areas that we mentioned that you don't seem to have control over. You can only encourage Google to keep spidering it and eventually add it. So that's quite interesting to see that knowledge panel there has changed quite a bit in just 6 months. Now another thing I wanted to go back to was the categories. So we mentioned here about the fact that categories, you get different numbers in different countries. But what I want to show to you now is the fact that almost on average 1 a week, that's about 50 a year, are being added, new categories. Let me just show you. If I do a search here, so these are detected in different date orders, but if I click on that when they were last detected, there you go. So if we were to take the beginning of this year, because we've got 50 per page, we've got one previous page, there's another 20 to 30 there. That's about 80 new categories. So different types of restaurants seem to be added at the moment. So let's just imagine that you were a Soto restaurant, and at the moment you've been generically just being a restaurant, and then you're the first one to say, actually, my primary category will be Soto restaurant. Now, if that was the case, you are suddenly going to be, anyone searching for a Soto restaurant, you're going to be number one, because no one else has put it as their primary category. So it's well worth going to this, which I'll put a link down below for you, and checking to see when or what new categories are being added all the time. Because look, even we're talking about in the last month or two, several have been added. Now for my 9th one, it's all to do with a bit of a mystery, a Scooby-Doo mystery.
Yeah, every time you log in and you check, it says you've got 85% complete.
Have you still got the 85% logo mystery? Well, of course, I think we've all got it. If you haven't, then just find out if you've got it. If you go to your home page, come down the page, 85%, add a logo. How many times have you added a logo? It makes no difference. Well, the end of that mystery is it's going to be solved by the end of the year. So it's just a trick to bear in mind. Don't keep changing it. Don't keep worrying about it. You're 100% if you've got 85% and the only thing outstanding is you're adding a logo. Now my 10th trick is just to bear in mind that Google wants you to report spam, and there's a few ways to report spam, and by reporting spam you'll enable then the better or the true identity of businesses to get to the top, and Google's wanting that now more than ever. So how does this work? Well, there's a couple of ways it works. First of all, if you come across a business and you think that you read something and you know it's not accurate, you know it's not true, or something about it doesn't make sense. I mean, I've no idea. This is a car rental in Bristol, so if it's your business, I apologise, because there's nothing wrong with it. But if I did think there was something wrong with it, say I thought the telephone number was wrong, or I thought the address was wrong, or it needs to be repointed on the map, you can click Suggest and Edit, and there's just more detail now, because you can say whether it's been removed or closed. It won't close it or remove it, but it will just flag it to Google. Or, for instance, you might think that's not true, that's not the name of it. It's not called Thrifty Car and Van Rental Bristol City, it's called something different. Or you might say the category should be changed because you don't agree with it, the location's changed. It could just be the hours you don't agree with, it could be the contact number is different. You might find their website isn't what it's saying. You've got lots and lots of ways of making changes, and those changes will just be flagged. It won't necessarily happen, but it just enables Google to approve it or disapprove it. And it just means then the accuracy of the results improves. But of course, there are occasions where you see something you think that is definitely wrong. That needs reporting. And if you get a more spammy type of site where you want to report it, then there's this new form called the Business Redressal Complaint Form. I'll put a link down below. And if you just see something that's really not right, something totally incorrect, you can give evidence of it, you can give information, you can then explain what it is, whether it's a title, the address, the phone number, you can put the address of it. It even gives explanations as to how you can then give a screenshot and explain what the issues are so that Google can then look into it. The idea is Google's trying to get as much of the information as reliable as possible. Now for my 11th tip, if you've ever replied to a review, you might just find that when you reply, you then go back to it and it seems to suggest it hasn't been replied to. And it's saying you've still got something outstanding, something like might be flagged here, you haven't replied still, even though you know you have. And particularly if you're using it on the app, you'll reply you'll then go back and then it will say you haven't replied. So this is my little tip here, is from my experience, you need to allow at least 30 seconds for the server to update it. So you may just find it's very laggy. Reviews in particular don't seem to show for some time. So don't keep answering them or replying to them or worrying about the fact that you've not replied. Go back an hour later and you'll find it's all updated. So for the 12th thing, I just want you to remember that when you do searches in Google, not everything produces a map. I mean, if I was to give you a choice to pick which one of these 4 produces a map: SEO consultant, SEO services, marketing expert, Google My Business expert. You think if someone was looking for, say, a marketing expert, that it would produce a map, or an SEO consultant, but it doesn't. As you can see, I've done a search here for SEO consultant. There is no map. There's no map pack to appear in. What about if we do a search for marketing expert? Once again, there is no map. Okay, surely then Google My Business expert. So someone's looking for a Google My Business expert. No. SEO services, would that produce a map? Yes, that does produce a map. So we've got a map here and we've even got a bit of explanation about what SEO is. But there we go, we've got a map and we come up here, and the reason we come up is because we mentioned SEO services. So even though it's not necessarily, we've got internet marketing service, but we see it still shows us as an SEO service. So it's worth bearing in mind when you're using keywords on your website, if you use ones where they also produce a map pack, then there's the tip. You can work it out for yourself really, that makes sense. Just noticed when I was typing in Google My Business Expert, I wonder if you put the word near me, whether that makes any difference. Because I saw that there. Let's just try this. Okay, well I come up number 1, near me. Well, there you go. Didn't realise that would happen. But there's no map pack anyway. So that didn't make any difference. Of course, if you're not near me, you won't get that. Number 13. But I think most people haven't realised you can do this. If you go into Google My Business and if you go to photos, most people under 360 don't have anything other than the street view. But ideally you want a street view, or you want it within your office. It'd be good if you could just add your 360 of your office that customers see when they come to visit you. So how do you do that? Well, if you want to know how to do that, then I did a video on exactly how to do that. Let me just see if I can find it for you. There you go. So how to add 360 video to Google My Business. And there we've got the time mechanisms of all the bits that you need. But basically, if you go to that video, so that's the video you want, and I'm going to put a link to it now so you can go straight there and see how to do that if you haven't done it, because that will then give you for free the 360-degree video. Hope you've enjoyed these tips and tricks, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video.